Our Across the Aisle segment tonight. Do you want to win Glamour magazine's Women of the Year award? Well, just threaten to cut off the genitals of your female opponents and call for jihad against the President of the United States. That seems to be the standards after Glamour magazine named Sharia law advocate Linda Sarsour to its Women of the Year list. And that's not all. Congresswoman Maxine Waters also received the honor, even though, according to the left, speech is violence. And Congresswoman Waters almost certainly joked about violence against President Trump. Take a look at that.
I am sitting here, listening, watching, absorbing, thinking about Ali, even though I never met him. And with this kind of inspiration, I will go and take Trump out tonight.
With me now, former Georgia State Representative and Democratic strategist, LaDawn Jones. LaDawn, good to see you.
Thanks for having me back. Happy Halloween, Liz.
Happy Halloween to you, too. All right, LaDawn, this list, I mean, there are a number of women included in this list. I obviously have zero problems with a variety of political opinions being represented in a list like this because it's supposed to appeal to a variety of different people around the country. But something that stuck out to me on this list is there were no Republican women, no pro-life women, no pro-Trump women, and no Christian women, no gun-owning women included on this list.
You know, that may be true, and I bet that that is, as a conservative woman, frustrating, because when you look at Glamour, which is supposed to be a generic kind of all-woman thing, you want to see yourself represented. You know, I don't know what to tell you. As a black woman, I've often experienced it. I've looked at our government, I've looked at our political leaders, I look at the Republican Party, and I don't see anybody that represents me, and it makes me very disconnected.
Right, and it's not just a matter of what someone looks like or representing something similar to what I believe in. It's that some of these women on this list actually represent things that, to me, are disconnected from the majority of women in this country. I mean, we're talking about Linda Sarsour here. This is the co-organizer of the Women's March. This woman has advocated for Sharia law in our country. She's called Sharia law reasonable. She actually advocated, she later apologized for it and claimed that she tweeted this when she was young and stupid just a couple years ago. She advocated for cutting off the genitals of Muslim women who she disagreed with, and now Glamour is propping her up as a role model for women. That's what I have a problem with.
Well, and I can understand that, and I'm not as well versed on her background and her history and the things that she's uplifted as you are. And some of those things outside of the context of which she may have put it in does sound despicable. But here's the reality. What Glamour is saying, and what we find every time we have this segment, is that there are things about another person, another American, another human, another woman that you can agree with and still disagree with them on other things. And so what Glamour is uplifting is the fact that almost 20,000 women are running for office, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, about the number of women that showed up together for the Women's March. You may not disagree with the organizer, but that is a statement, a historic moment in American history for women, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I guess I would disagree. I do find something wrong with that because the Women's March claims that they champion all women. They claim that they are a voice for all women, but that's not true. They excluded the people with the characteristics that I talked about before. They excluded pro-life women. There was a sponsor for the Women's March. They wanted to give money to the Women's March, be part of this because they were pro-life, but they were also anti-Trump at the same time. The Women's March told them no. They said you're only allowed to be involved. You're only allowed to be included as a sponsor if you're pro-abortion. The Women's March tells women what characteristics we have to espouse if we want to be a real woman. And my question is, what kind of message does that send to maybe the teenagers that are reading this magazine, that if you want to be a real woman, if you want to be recognized for your womanhood by a women's magazine, you have to be both anti-Trump and you have to celebrate abortion. And if you dare to vote conservative, if you dare to support Donald Trump, if you dare to be a champion of our Second Amendment rights, then you're not good enough and you can't come.
So there's two components. First, what is really weird in this Donald Trump era is that there's so many millions of people who voted for him, but many times when you ask people or when you have that discussion, they are hesitant to claim Donald Trump. There are some people who are very vocally out there. So that's one weird and separate phenomenon. But in this particular realm, I understand what you're saying. If I hear you correct, It does not feel fair or right to be excluded, to not be represented, to not be shown, to feel like your voice is shunned. But that's how the people who are taking a knee, like Colin Kaepernick, are saying. That's what the cheerleaders at Kennesaw State University here in Georgia are saying. Our voice is not heard. And what we've been told by the conservatives and by Republicans is pull yourself up by your bootstraps, put your own self at the table. Don't wait for the government to give it to you. So I would say the same to you. If you feel excluded from the Women's March because of the way that they set things up, pull yourself up from your bootstraps and come
No,
to the
no,
table
I
and
don't
get
think
involved.
I don't think it's a matter of inclusivity.
Involved.
I don't think it's a matter of inclusivity. I mean, I would love to be included in a larger thing. I'm not entirely interested in being part of the Women's March, even if they include women here. It's not a matter of inclusivity so much as it's a matter of identity politics. It's a matter of people on the left saying, we have painted in a box exactly the characteristics that we think you should have if you want to be a real woman. And then they are using those standards in order to tell you whether you are doing it correctly or not, or whether they are going to champion you and stand up for you. They are telling you who you have to be based off of certain identity politics and standards. That's what I have a problem with. That's what's wrong. And I mean, shame on Glamour magazine for purporting that message, because that's a dangerous message to send to young girls in our country. LaDawn, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.